deserve, because Mike Conley doesn't go crazy. He has class, and he just plays the game. But I'm not going to let them treat us that way. You know, I know Pop's got pedigree, and I'm a young rookie, but they're not going to rook us. That's unacceptable. That was unprofessional. My guys dug in that game and earned the right to be in that game, and they did not even give us a chance.
All right, thank you.
Take that for data.
One of my favorite clips.
Never gets old.
No.
Fizdale was hired to replace Jeff Hornacek, who's out after a couple of years in New York. And it's been a bit of a revolving door at Madison Square Garden over the last few years or decade or so. What can Fizz do to stabilize things and get this thing on the right track?
I think, first of all, they did a great job of finding the right coach for the culture and what's going on right now in New York. I think he did a tremendous job in Memphis with those guys. It was a short term there, but I think coming back in New York, he'll have a chance to really redeem himself with the younger team. You know, he used the phrase of not being rooked, but he's going to be going through a lot of that this season with this young team, with referees and not gaining that respect, especially from New York fans. So I think he's coming in as the coach that they wanted, and I think he's going to do a great job with this group.
Yeah, and you know, look, I thought he got shafted in Memphis. He should not have been fired. I think he did in his short tenure prove that he is, you know, worthy of being a head coach. And I do think he brings the right mindset, the personality to that group. And for the first time in a long time, the Knicks got their first choice. You know, they got the guy they wanted to lead this resurgence. And I think what's really going to be important is the system he devises and puts in place. Remember, this team went through the triangle, then the quasi-triangle, then the rectangle. You know,
lots of shapes
involved. Yeah. So, like, what's the identity going to be? You know, getting Kevin Knox, who I think's got a chance. I mean, if those two guys, he and Porzingis, are able to reach their potential, man, you talk about a hell of a tandem at those bookends on the wing position with their overall versatility. So, I mean, they've got, again, a reason to be optimistic moving forward. And if he can develop the backcourt, if he can develop that bench and create an identity there where these guys have an expectation to win, you know, coaching is critical in terms of instilling confidence into a young core group, which they are. So he's going to have a challenge, but, boy, I tell you, it's one he's going to welcome, because if you can win there, boy, it's going to be special for he and that Knicks fan base right now that is salivating for anything positive.
Well, and they love what they've seen out of Knox so far, Knicks fans. He was the number 9 overall pick. Great in Summer League. I know it's Summer League, but first team all Las Vegas Summer League, averaged 21 a game in his short time there. Does he have star potential?
Yes, and if you just go back a year prior, remember there was another guy that was great in Summer League, playing for the Jazz now, that, you know, ended up turning out pretty well in Donovan Mitchell. And I think that Kevin Knox in a lot of ways can have that kind of impact because he's already got a defined skill set. He's got the athleticism. With his size and length, he can play on the perimeter, and he's going to embrace the moment. I think this is a young man that has a chance to be a cornerstone of a franchise. Now, 19 years old, youngest kid I think that was in the draft. It might be a couple years before he's ready to have the kind of impact we saw from, say, a Donovan Mitchell. But I do think they know that this kid's got a chance. That's why I think there's a lot of excitement and some anxiousness to see him alongside Porzingis to see how they could complement one another.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a lot of pressure on a young fella getting drafted in New York. I heard Zeke on one of the shows say he has him for Rookie of the Year, you know, and it's going to be a tough road to get Rookie of the Year in the Knicks organization. But let me tell you, he's going to have opportunity to play. I like him. He was a freshman of the year last year in the SEC. He has length. I think the sky's the limit for him. He kind of reminds me of Otto Porter, but I think with a better jump shot at a younger age. So he has an opportunity, I think, not to be Rookie of the Year, but be a good rookie.
Well, and if he gets the fans on his side, that's a win, right?
And he will.
York, and there's no reason to think he can't.
Porzingis did it. Remember, they booed Porzingis on draft night, and he ended up winning them over pretty handily.
All right, much more to get to on the New York Knicks. There are 8 million stories in the Naked City, and it seems nearly as many point guards competing for minutes with the city's NBA club. How Coach Fizz can best deploy his stable of ones next.
Hits the three from way downtown. Money in the bank tonight, folks. Nice feed inside, and Porzingis throws it down, but he's hurt. Porzingis grabbing his left knee, and he's in some severe pain. That's a scary sight for Porzingis and the Knicks fans. The organization holds their breath.
Call it the Manhattan Island of misfit toys. There are several players on this roster trying to find a home in New York after not working out for whatever reason elsewhere. Mario Hezonja, Noah Vonleh, for instance, are both recent top 10 picks, now on one-year deals with the Knicks. And their second-round pick, the very long, very active Mitchell Robinson, remember, arrives having not played college ball at all last season. This time last year, the Knicks were getting a handle on what Frank Ntilikina had to offer as a professional point guard. The offense is a work in progress, and he's got plenty of competition at that position, with both Trey Burke and Emmanuel Mudiay joining the team since Ntilikina was drafted. How do you see Coach Fizz working out this point guard trio he's got?
You know, I could see a scenario where Ntilikina is not the point guard. Now, he allegedly grew an inch and a half, so he's almost
That's even worse
now.
He's a 6'8".
Yeah, so I could see him playing some small forward, and I could see scenarios where they have 2 or 3 of those guys out there on the floor. But a lot of that's going to come out in training camp in terms of Fizz getting a feel for who does what well, and then we got to go back to their system. What it's going to be the identity. They were not a good three-point shooting team a year ago. Middle of the pack in terms of pace. Defensively, they had struggles as well. So, I mean, those are areas as a coaching staff you're going to say, look, we've got to improve across the board there. Who gives us the best chance with this roster to improve there? Because we want to establish a culture and an accountability of how we're going to play every night. Which guys gives us the best chance to play that way while we develop, you know, Knox and Robinson and guys like that. And, you know, in a lot of ways, this is it's advantageous because those guys you talked about with Burke and Mudiay, you know, they're not, you know, locked into them long term.
Right.
If it works, it works. They're going to have a ton of cap space a year from now. They're going to be players in the free agent market. Their biggest concern is we want to establish our culture of how we play, and we want to develop our young guys. We want Kevin Knox and Robinson, in particular with Porzingis, to be attractive to an A-list free agent when we go to bat next summer.
And Ntilikina at this point is going to be on the floor primarily for his defense, not necessarily what he does offensively as a point guard or at some other position. So maybe Fizz is just kind of feeling his way through this and seeing what fits.
Well, yeah, you know this. What's the point guard? The extension of the coach, you know, on the floor. So Fizz first year, I mean, it's going to be a battle in training camp to who gets that starting position. You know, the extension of the coach is a vocal leader who can run the offense, knows the system the quickest, and trusts in the teammates who's playing around them, the Porzingises, the Knox, the Robinsons, the Cantors, the younger guys too. So who's going to be that guy that the team trusts and builds that trust? So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to start at the point. I like Mudiay, but I also like Trey Burke, what he did last year. And let's see, maybe we'll have a combination of those guys on the court at the same time. But that's not for us to decide. That's for Fizdale. Yeah.
You mentioned identity a moment ago. Hard to say at this moment exactly what that identity is without Porzingis on the floor. So what's your best guess in terms of what Fizdale is going to want to do?
I think, and because those 3 guards are so different, right? You know, obviously, Ntilikina is the defender. Trey Burke's the better scorer. I think Mudiay gives them the best pace to play with. They all have their weaknesses as well. So I think you're going to see a group that really tries to play through their wings a lot. And I think the guy, Mario Hezonja, coming over, this is going to be an opportunity for him at that small forward position to really have an impact, along with Kevin Knox. I think those 2 guys, from an offensive standpoint, have a chance to have a big impact and grow this year. Again, they want to have success with wins, but they want to get what they can out of those guys in terms of growth. With Ntilikina, he, you know, struggles from an offensive standpoint. I don't know that he showed enough this past summer to improve to where I feel confident that that's going to be a strength. But his defensive versatility, unquestioned. So I think if I'm Fizz, I want to establish a defensive culture. I think he's got to be a focal point of that. And you drafted him in the top 10. So he's yours. And he's going to be there a couple more years. So I think he's the guy they want to see grow of the 3. That because he does give them the most flexibility. Now, if he improves offensively, then they got a chance, I think, to have some special pieces. But if not, man, they're going to find themselves in this boat again a year from now.
And doesn't that just make sense for Coach Fizz anyway? This could be a transitional season for the Knicks to establish the defensive end first and then see what you've got in terms of the skill players?
Well, the good news for Fizz is it's always a transitional season for the Knicks. So he can rest assured. He can rest assured on that one. But you want to establish a culture. And if it's going to be on the defensive end, to GA's point, I mean, you want to have to probably find your point guard and then play through your wings. And especially if Porzingis is not around, that's trouble. You know, if you can't establish that early with Porzingis and he has to come on late, now you have to start all over and rebuild. So depending on the timeline when Porzingis comes back, who's the point guard, and then you kind of start filling out other areas on the court of who's starting, who's coming off the bench. Once the roles set in, I think they'd be in that much better shape.
It's a fair point. There's not a lot of long-term with the Knicks.
This is the start.
Clyde Frazier.
This is the start of the long term.
Clyde's been there a long time.
Yeah, Clyde has been there a real long time.
All right, much more on the way. Coming up, Enes Kanter embraces the pain. And the starters assess the Knicks as